Hello everybody. The latest eSIM technical specification from the GSMA, the one for IoT devices, which is called SGP32, is around for quite some time now, and we see the industry developing first products. These are the usual suspects, which are around since quite a while in this area, but we see also new companies from new industries entering this market and developing products. Also just recently, the first eSIM products have been certified by Global Platform. So it's probably not a surprise that we see a rising demand in development environments and test tools in this area. And because this technical domain is quite complex, I'd like to recap a little bit the architecture of this eSIM technology for IoT devices. And I'd like to explain a little bit what test tools and development tools are available. So in this picture, we see the high-level architecture of an eSIM solution for IoT devices. On the upper left-hand side, you see the IoT device, which contains the eSIM and the so-called IPA, the IoT Profile Assistance, which is a software component which is involved in the local lifecycle management of the profile in addition to the eSIM. We see on the upper right-hand side the eIM, the eSIM IoT Remote Manager. So that is the component which remotely adds the lifecycle management and allows to control loading profiles, enabling, disabling profiles on an IoT device from remote. And last but not least, we see the SMDP Plus component, which is the one which conducts the remote SIM provisioning of the profiles, which hosts the profiles, and which is a core component. So all these three components together make up the IoT eSIM architecture. So let's look at the different components which can be emulated of such an architecture and can be used in a development environment. So first of all, we can emulate the SMDP Plus component, and we have from our side, we have two flavors of an SMDP Plus. We have one which serves profiles in combination with eSIMs with test certificates. So if you have access to a device or to an eICC which contains test certificates, then you need this version of the SMDP Plus. But also we have an SMDP Plus with live certificates. If you have a commercial off-the-shelf device, commercial grade eICC, then essentially you need this type of SMDP Plus to serve your development environment with profile downloads. Secondly, the eIM. Also the eIM is an element which we can emulate, and we cover this with our products. Thirdly, it's about the IoT device. So we can emulate the device and certain device functions which are relevant in particular for connecting to the eSIM and hosting the IPA and conducting the IPA functionality and the profile download functionality. So it's about the IoT device itself, but also then about the IPA, the IoT Profile Assistance, which can be emulated. So all these components can be emulated, which means if you develop one component as a product, you can choose the other components to set up an end-to-end development and test environment. There are some special remarks which need to be known as some flavors of these technologies and also these emulators. For example, for the communication between the IoT device and the eIM, you have the choice of classical HTTP communication or various narrowband communication protocols in case you're using a network or an environment which does not come with a significant bandwidth. So both is possible, but what we see in the market is that IoT devices which are launched or which are under development mainly support the HTTP protocol today. And we haven't seen a lot of narrowband protocol implementation. So that may change in the future, and we are observing the market. But for now, this means that our products, our emulators, focus on the HTTP communication between the IoT device and the eIM. That may change in the future, as said, when we see in the market other devices which require narrowband protocol. And there's another choice which you have, which is how to do the eSIM profile download from the device to the SMDP Plus. So there are two versions called the indirect and the direct profile download. And you see the indirect profile download goes via the eIM, whereas the direct profile download directly connects the IoT device and the SMDP Plus. The indirect profile download is then meaningful if you use narrowband protocols between the IoT device and the eIM, because then also for the profile download you can use the narrowband protocol, which might be necessary. The direct profile download does not support the narrowband protocol, it just goes via HTTPS. And that is the choice if you in any case use HTTP protocol to do this. So the indirect profile download has only a value if you use narrowband protocols. If not, then the direct profile download is preferable. And this is also what we see once again in mainly all the products which are coming to market now. Means also that our tools and our emulators at the moment support the direct profile download. And again, that may change in the future if and when we see products which support narrowband protocols. So all these emulators in the dark blue are available from us and are part of some products. And I would like to map this to the product names because it's not always obvious which emulator, which component is part of which product. So on the one hand side, we have a product called the Network Bridge. So that covers the IoT device emulation and an IPA emulation. We have the eICC Profile Manager that comes with an SMDP Plus emulation for the remote SIM provisioning in the version for the test certificates and an eIM in combination. And if you run an eICC with live certificates, not with test certificates, then for the SMDP Plus, we provide a service which is called the eSIM Test Profile Service. So all this together is a fully fledged end-to-end development environment where you can drop one component and put your device or component under test in for testing purposes and for development purposes. That's it for today. Thanks and goodbye.